Hi there, and welcome to Preparing for MTA Exam 98375, HTML5 Application Development Fundamentals. My name is Christopher Harrison, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Rachel Jones, MCT Extraordinaire. So Rachel, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Christopher. Pleasure to be here with you and with our audience today. I am principal owner of a consulting business specializing in helping businesses transition to the latest software development technologies. As you mentioned, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. I have been doing that for about 20 years. And I have a specific passion helping individuals enter into this great industry of ours. It's a great industry to be in. And of course, one of the ways to do that is to gain a certification.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you are taking that first step, MTA is a great place to get started. And we'll get into that in just a couple of minutes. But real quick, just so you have a bit of background on myself, my name is Christopher Harrison. I'm also a longtime MCT. I only was an MCT for about 14 years, though, so a little less. But in any event, I've actually been dabbling with computers since my father brought home a VIC-20. I specialize in ASP.NET, SharePoint, Office 365, and a little bit of SQL. And very recently, I came on board with Microsoft Learning as a content developer, and just very happy to be here. So with that, what do you say we talk a little bit about, well, what we're going to talk about? Let's go ahead and introduce the modules, the topics, and kind of set the stage for what it is that we're going to be covering over the next couple, 3 hours here.
Okay, sounds great. We have divided this course into 6 modules. We'll start off first with just laying out some basic expectations. This is going to be particularly helpful if you have never taken a Microsoft Certified exam before. Yep. Then we're going to break down each one of the objectives specifically related to this 98375 exam. And we'll finish off in Module 6, just trying to tie it all together, summarizing it, and leaving you with some tips on how to prepare for the exam.
Excellent, excellent. That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Now, as far as expectations go, what we're expecting is that you are an entry-level developer, because after all, that's what the MTA itself is all about. And we'll get a little bit more into the MTA and kind of set all the different levels of certification that Microsoft or that we offer. But in this particular case, the MTA designed for that entry-level developer, and that's really who we expect that you are. This is also designed to supplement courses or real-world experience that over the bit of time that we're going to be talking, we don't expect anybody to be able to go from no knowledge of HTML5, CSS, JavaScript to being able to pass the exam. That just really wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully maybe this is supplementing a course that you're currently taking, that you have already taken, or as Christopher said, a little bit of real-world experience. However, we should probably mention, even if you don't meet those prerequisites, stick with us.
Yep.
We're going to be providing some additional links and resources as we go through that might help you fill some of those gaps.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are brand new, yeah, absolutely stick with us, because we are going to help point you in the right direction, and you'll certainly pick up a few tips and tricks and get a really good head start on your studying going forward.
We've been talking a lot, though, about MTA, certification, exams. Should we maybe fill in our audience a little bit about what MTA is, how it fits in the track?
Yeah, let's do exactly that. Let's do exactly that. So let's talk a bit about the exam, what the exam is all about, what MTA is all about, and how everything kind of comes together. So MTA is designed to be that entry-level certification. And in fact, the best thing really to do here, let me just bring up my mouse here and fire this up, is to bring up the documentation straight from Microsoft. That one of the things that I'm a big believer in is, go straight to the source, go straight to the horse's mouth and see everything right there, get the current stuff. And so what you'll see is that MTA is really designed for career changers, it's designed for students, it's designed for people who are trying to get those first couple of steps into building, hopefully, a very successful career inside of technology, getting in with, in this particular case, HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm going to let you talk for a second here so I can get a drink so my voice stays with us.
Yeah, mentioning that, one of the things that I have recommended this exam for is I've had a few students over the years attempt the 480 exam, which is the HTML exam right above this one. And they just weren't quite there yet, wasn't successful, felt a little defeated. So I recommended go back to this one, start at this and build that confidence, get a certification under your belt, and then move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's also kind of, I think, a great level set. It gives you the opportunity to see exactly where you are. If maybe you do need to take another step back and kind of build back up again before going off and taking the 480 exam. Now, the 480 exam that Rachel mentions there is the beginning into MCSD, or Microsoft Certified Solutions Developer. And that really is designed to be a premier certification, a higher level cert. And it's designed for people that have been in the industry for a good handful of years and have a lot of experience with the product. So that's sort of the next big certification goal after achieving the MTA.
Right. Good. Well, hopefully that helps put it in perspective for the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll kind of go right on in, then I'll let you save your voice for a minute there, Christopher.
Thank you very much.
I like to call this first module the Alka-Seltzer module. Yeah. So
okay.
Because the idea is to help you alleviate a little bit of those testing jitters. That's the whole idea. Is we're going to just lay out some basic expectations. We're going to look at things like how the exam is scored. Again, this is particularly helpful if you have not taken a Microsoft exam before. We're going to look at what score you need to actually pass the exam, how it's formatted, how are you going to register. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable that this exam and this course is right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things I always like to say is that getting past an exam is basically like 50-50, not pass-fail, but rather it's 50% your knowledge and then 50% your test-taking ability. So kind of knowing exactly what to expect as far as the experience goes, about even just kind of the basics of like Rachel said, how to register is going to go a long way in helping you feel more comfortable, more confident when you sit down to take that exam.
All right, well, let's get
let's get
right into it.
So if we take a look at Rachel's slides here, there we go. And talk a little bit about how the exam itself is scored.
Yeah, so the good news, hopefully it's going to be good news after you sit this course.
That would be a good screenshot to see when you're done.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to know if you were successful before you actually leave the testing center. You're going to get a score sheet that looks similar to this. And hopefully, again, after sitting this course, you're going to see this result, this pass result. On the right-hand side of your score sheet, you're also going to get a scaled score, and that's a score between 0 and 100. You're going to need, I believe it's 70, right?
Correct.
70 or below, above, Christopher, to get a passing score.
That is correct.
You know, the thing I love about Microsoft score sheets, and by the way, all of their certification score sheets look similar to this. You're going to get a breakdown right here that shows you how well you did, a graphical breakdown for each objective. I really like this feature.
Yeah, because, again, if you don't wind up, or even if you do wind up passing, but if you don't wind up passing the exam, you, of course, want to go back and take it again. Well, if you're going to take it again, you need to figure out, okay, well, what was I weak in? Where do I need to focus in on so that way I can make sure I've got better success the next time around? So if you take a look, and we'll kick back to Rachel's screen real quick, if you take a look at those bars down at the very bottom, it's relatively straightforward that the less that bar is full is the more that you need to focus in on that particular area. The more that bar is full, it's trying to indicate that you know that particular area really, really well.
Right.
And I always like to mention this as well, is let's say that you do go in and you don't wind up passing the exam.
Right.
What happens? Well, it's, believe it or not the end of the world. That you're going to see those four little letters, F-A-I-L, and that's it. I've failed a few exams throughout my career. I'm sure you've done the same. And each time that I did that, my wife didn't leave me. My dog didn't walk out. My car still worked. You know, my life didn't crumble around me. Certainly, yes, it was disappointing, but it really was not as scary as you think it might be. That really, if you do wind up failing, it's okay. We've all been there. We've all done it. It's all about then just getting back in, figuring out, okay, where do I need to focus in on to study and pass the exam? And that's exactly what that score sheet is going to give you.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, I would say that if you leave this entire course with one bit of information, the most important thing to keep in mind is it's okay if you don't pass the first time. Try again. You can try several times, and we're going to get into that a little bit further about the retake policy, so stick with us on that.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about how the exam is actually formatted.
Yep.
For the most part, you're going to have multiple choice type questions. You may have a few true false and some matching, and that's going to be in the form of kind of a drag drop scenario with your mouse.
Right. Yep.
Here's the good news. You ready, Christopher?
Okay, I'm ready for good news. I always like good news.
Yeah. Don't have to write code.
Okay.
Don't have to write code. That's really good news because this is a time test. You are only going to have about 50 minutes to complete about 30 to 40 questions. So you can see not really a whole lot of time to be sitting down churning out code.
Right.
I know you are the certification ninja, Christopher. So I was wondering if you had any points about this Mark for Review feature, if you could tell us a little bit about what that is. And do you like it?
Sure, absolutely. So Mark for Review is basically exactly like it sounds, is that you're allowed to mark a question for review later on. That when you're going through the exam, what you'll notice to the upper right-hand corner is a little checkbox, and it says exactly that, Mark for Review. And so that way, as you're going through the exam, you can go ahead and highlight, yes, I want to go back to this question, or I want to go back to this question. And when you get to the very end, you'll then have the opportunity to step back and go back through those questions that you marked for review. And that gives you an opportunity to take another look at that question and figure out, okay, well, maybe do I want to go in and change the answer? Now, when it comes to mark for review, I like that for questions where either A, I'm not entirely sure that I know what the right answer is, or B, for questions that are overly complex. That one of my basic test strategies is to make the easy questions easy, and then that way I have a bit more time to spend with the hard questions. Yep. So if I know what the answer is, I'm just going to mark the answer and I'm just going to move on from there. But if I'm, not 100% certain and I'm just staring at this question and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what in the world are they talking about here? Rather than focusing in on that question for 5 minutes, I'm just going to mark an answer, and then I'm going to mark it for review, and then I'll go back to it later on. And that way, I know that I've gotten through the exam. I'm sort of into my bonus time, as it were, because I know I've already got an answer on every question. So now, if I wind up running out of time, I know at the very least, every question's been answered. So I can spend a little bit more time with those types of questions. Now, again, it's a good opportunity to go back and take a look at things, but I'm also going to contradict myself. Because you got to be very careful about going back and changing an answer. So
Agreed.
Let's say that I wasn't 100% certain, so I marked an answer, and I went back and I reviewed the question later, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it, and I decide, I really don't think I was right the first time. I'm going to go in and change that answer. Be very careful. If I had a nickel for every time I changed an answer later and then realized, oh, wait a minute, no, I was right the first time, I'd be able to take my wife out for a very nice dinner.
So you're saying use it, but use it with caution.
Exactly, yeah. Be very careful about it, because 9 times out of 10, that first instinct is correct. Whatever it is that you thought was the right answer, chances are that was the right answer. So be very careful about it. Not to say don't do it.
Right.
Not to say don't mark for review, because it's a very powerful test-taking tool, but just be a bit careful about going back and changing your answers later on.
Okay. I think that's really good advice. Before we move off of this slide, though, I don't want to mislead our audience. I did say that you didn't have to write code, but be sure to know that you may have to actually do a little evaluation of code.
Yes.
So as an example, you might actually have a multiple choice question. Some scenario, and be given 4 options of which code would actually, and it's just little snippets of code, would fit best for that particular scenario. So we're going to get into coding a little bit later, but just know that you don't have to write it, but you will have to do some code evaluation.
Absolutely, yeah. Because after all, it's a coding exam, so you should definitely expect to see some code on the exam. It makes sense.
Let's talk a little bit about how to register for the exam.
Yeah.
First off, if you are currently a student, and that could be at a university, at a college, even at a high school level, the first thing that you're going to do is check with your site administrator. Chances are your school might be a certified testing center for Certiport. And even if your school isn't, possibly one in your district is. So that's going to be your most economical and easiest way to get certified.
Right. Yep.
Let's talk about if they're not, though. If that's not an option, what you can do is go out to Certiport.com's site. And I'm just going to go ahead and browse out there so that I can walk you through it. There's a section.
That looks like a bunch of happy people.
Hey, yeah, they just passed an exam. So we've got under testing candidates, you notice there's a located testing center.
Yep.
You can go here and use this map to hone in on your area and get a testing site that is near you.
Perfect. Okay.
Go register. You can register online or just call in. Now, we should probably recommend to our audience, you might want to give yourself at least 24 hours to register ahead. Sometimes if you try calling on the same day, you may not get in because the test is proctored and they need to have someone there while you're taking the test.
Yeah, and I'd actually even almost take that one step further and say schedule that in advance, because if you're anything like me, and I know I am, if I just simply say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to go take that exam at some point, some point becomes some later point and some later point, and it just never happens. But if I say, you know what, it's going to be on this date, then that makes it real. So I always like to schedule an exam, say like a month out or 2 months out, so that way I've got a little bit of skin in the game, as it were, sort of a U.S. expression there. But I've actually put something forth. I've invested the money. I've put something there. I've put a stake in the ground, and now that's going to make it a bit more real. That now I know that I've got to be ready by a month or 2 months from now. So that's really going to help me focus in on my studies and make sure that I get it done.
A little self-motivation.
Exactly, yeah. And that's really important.
I think so.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more. We said that, yes, you could take the test. Let's talk about the retake policy. How do you go about finding out? Now, there is a little bit of a lag in between when you can take the test. You can't turn around and take it the same day. Because it's a recorded session, and that retake policy sometimes changes. Rather than give you what it is today, I'm going to recommend that you just go out and do a search on Microsoft Exam Policies, FAQ, and get the current retake policy.
Exactly, yeah, because it does change from time to time. So definitely just do that, and then that way, if anything does change, you know that you'll always have the updated information.
But the important thing to leave here is you can retake the exam.
Exactly.
So no worries.
Exactly. So again, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, is that if it does turn out that you fail the exam, and that's not a terrible word, it happens to all of us, you always have that ability to go back and take the exam a second time.
Very good. Well, we certainly don't want to leave this out. If we look at my slide here, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable that this exam and this course is right for you. And quite simply put, this is going to help you differentiate yourself amongst the crowd, right, Christopher?
Yes.
No matter where you are in the path, whether you are trying to get into your favorite college or applying for your first internship or even that first entry-level job, the fact is everybody else is too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got to have a way to differentiate yourself. And certification is one way certainly to do that. And I know personally myself as a hiring manager, it's something I look for. It gives me a standard metric to measure all the applicants.
Absolutely. And it also shows initiative, because this is an exam where you have to go off on your own, schedule the exam, study for the exam, take the exam. So not only have you shown that, yes, I know how to do HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript, but you've also shown to Rachel, to a potential employer, that, you know what, not only do I know the technology, but I also have the drive. I'm also committed to put forth the time, the effort, the energy to go forth and get certified and take that extra step.
Right.
And hiring managers like that as well. So if you're on the fence about, well, I don't know whether or not I want to do it, trust me, in the long run, this is the good way to go.
Agreed. I think 10% of it is knowledge, about 90% is motivation and drives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So in summary, hopefully that alleviated a little bit of test jitters. You don't have as many butterflies now. I think that's a big part of getting over taking that first exam.
Absolutely.
You know now a little bit about expectations of how the exam is scored. 70 or above to be successful, right, Christopher?
Yep, that's it.
No code?
Well, no writing code.
No writing code.
No writing
yes,
code. There will be code on the exam,
right?
Because it is a code exam.
Yep.
But you will not have to write code.
Right.
Yep.
You know how to register now. You're going to go to Certiport.com or get with your site administrator, and hopefully now you feel that this exam and this course is right for you.
Yeah.
So, looking ahead at some of the future modules, if we want to bring my slide up.
There we go.
Yeah. When we talk about creating an HTML5 application, we want to make sure that we understand that it's not HTML5 is not something you actually go out and purchase a service or a tool to create.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Several tools, right? Several tools that we're going to use, and we're going to break these down into the next modules. We're going to look at hypertext markup language, cascading style sheets, and then, of course, JavaScript.
Yep.
And by using all of those tools, we're going to tie those in to create our HTML5 application.
Absolutely.
We'll see you in Module 2, where we'll be talking about HTML.
Yep. So come on back.
Yeah. Thank you.